In the fall of 2017, a Tampa neighborhood was held hostage by a serial killer. For 51 long days, the residents of Seminole Heights lived in fear, afraid to leave their homes at night, locking themselves in from dusk till dawn, terrified of becoming the next random victim of a monster, hunting the streets they once felt safe in. This is the tragic and terrifying story of a nightmare that lasted for 51 days. A story of pain, loss, and sorrow, but also of a neighborhood and police force refusing to succumb to a faceless coward. This is the case of the Seminole Heights Serial Killer. October 9th, 2017, 22-year-old Benjamin Mitchel left his home shortly before 9 p.m. According to his aunt, he was either going to pick up his girlfriend at the IKEA store that she worked at, or would wait for her at the bus stop and walk her home. He always wanted to make sure she got home safe. Benjamin also worked at IKEA. He worked at the store during the day and attended his classes at Hillsborough Community College at night. He was close to receiving his associate degree in business. He had planned to continue his studies and specialize in mechanical engineering. In his spare time, Benjamin made music, rap music. His stage name? Eddie Banks. All caps and a $sign for the letter S. Music was his biggest passion. On his Soundcloud account, he wrote that he wanted to speak for the people who don't have a voice. And, quote, "Music and art is my passion, here to be the greatest." End quote. I will share the link to his music on Soundcloud. Look him up and give him a listen. Seriously, it's good. Here's a short clip that Benjamin posted to Twitter in April 2017. Eddie Banks, freestyling.
Rest in peace to Grandma Rosie. Promise I'ma make her proud. They like, who is Eddie Banks? They don't know me, but they feel me. But I'm like that Chucky doll, nigga. Boy, it's hard to kill me. People think we making music for fun. This ain't no hobby. Nah.
Benjamin was the only boy in the family and had 6 sisters. One of them, Nikisha, said that Ben was never a confrontational person. He did not need to be because he knew his 6 sisters would always stand behind him. Around 9 p.m., while Benjamin waited at the bus stop on 15th Street North in Seminole Heights, he was shot 4 times. At the time, there were no streetlights near the bus stop, and Benjamin might have been wearing his headphones. He probably did not see the shooter coming for him. Across the street, Uriel Bay and his wife heard the gunshots from their living room. After a quick check if it seemed safe, Uriel ran outside and found Benjamin on the ground, bleeding profusely and fighting for his life. Uriel took off his shirt and desperately tried to stop the bleeding. Witnesses described Benjamin's fight for his life as pure agony. He made gurgling sounds, and the bleeding never seemed to stop. Benjamin Mitchel, a good guy who wouldn't hurt a fly, tragically died on the street. Uriel later told reporters, quote, "I want his family to know that he was fighting for his life. He just did not give up." End quote. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong, and Benjamin had no enemies. Police and his devastated family and friends couldn't think of any reason why someone would want to kill a good guy like Benjamin. A young man, minding his own business at a bus stop, just wanting to make sure his girl got home safe. Police investigated the crime scene and found 2 Smith & Wesson .40 caliber cartridge casings of the brand SIG. Other than that, they had nothing. There is a glimmer of hope, though. 3 days later, on October 12th, Tampa police released security camera footage of a man seen walking close to the crime scene at the time of the shooting. The man is wearing a hoodie and is unrecognizable. Police do not know if the man could be a witness or the killer, but they urge him and anybody else who may know something to come forward. The next day, while police are still investigating Benjamin's murder, a city landscape crew made a horrifying discovery. They had found the body of a young woman on an empty, overgrown plot on New Orleans Avenue, less than a mile away from Benjamin's crime scene. And her life, too, was cut short by .40 caliber SIG bullets. The victim was later identified as 32-year-old Monica Hoffa, a young woman in the prime of her life, very much in love with her partner Derek, with whom she was planning a future. Monica was raised by her mother, grandparents, and aunt. She and her cousins grew up like sisters. She loved spending time with her family and would always tell them she loved them. She would say, "You know I love you, right?" Monica also had a great love for the deaf community. Her mom and many of her friends are deaf, and she was fluent in sign language. She could help her mom out by interpreting and make life a little bit easier for her. Monica was last seen on October 11th. She worked as a waitress at an IHOP restaurant close to her home. Guests loved her. One regular told her father that he would always request to be seated in Monica's area in the restaurant, even if that meant he had to wait for a table. On the night of the 11th, Monica and a co-worker shared an Uber after work. The co-worker was dropped off first. Monica came home, placed some items that she had bought earlier on her bed, and texted a friend that she was coming over. The friend lived just 3 blocks away, but Monica would never arrive. Police believed Monica was shot and killed on the night of October 11th. Several residents of New Orleans Avenue heard gunshots that night. Some of them even went out to see what was happening, but they did not see or hear anything suspicious. Nobody was seen leaving the field, and no car was seen or heard leaving. Seminole Heights was built in the 1910s. The neighborhood is known for its many historic bungalow-style homes. No 2 streets are the same, making it feel quaint and unique. With the arrival of young professionals in the early 2000s, the neighborhood has enjoyed a major upswing. Seminole Heights is still a popular place to live. I heard a YouTuber say in a video about the area that it's where all the cool people live. It is a walkable neighborhood. You do not need to have a car to get to a shop or park. And the neighborhood has a bustling night scene with trendy restaurants, craft breweries, and hip boutiques. There are loads of fun community events like a monthly farmers market, porch parties, and dog walking Saturdays. It's also a very green area. Lots of matured trees adding even more character to the bungalow-rich streets. It seems like a funky, cozy place. And close to downtown Tampa, but with a small-town feel. It is not all unicorns and rainbows, of course. The neighborhood has its share of crimes. Divided by Interstate 275, the crime rate is higher, and the income level is lower on the southeast side. The hip and happening restaurants and shops are mostly located west of the interstate. The killer roamed the southeast side of the neighborhood, and sadly, would strike again within days. October 19th, 2017. We are now on day 11 of the terror. 20-year-old Anthony Naiboa is on his way home after work. He recently started a new job packaging supplies for hurricane victims in Puerto Rico. Like Benjamin Mitchel, Anthony was an aspiring artist. When he lost his first job due to layoffs, he was extremely down. Music got him back on his feet. Although shy about it at first, he later published his music on Soundcloud under his stage name James Firefox. He wrote and produced songs and beats for his audience, which quickly grew to 600 followers. Anthony, too, was a very talented and promising artist. His music is still on SoundCloud. Do give him a listen. You will not regret it. Anthony was diagnosed with mild autism at a young age, but that did not stop him from reaching any goal he set for himself. He was determined to graduate from high school with a full diploma, and he did. Not without obstacles, but he achieved his goal. His father, Casimir, told the newspaper The Wave that Anthony always strove to be everything he could be. A great young man who always tried to be better and achieve his dreams. Surveying police hear gunshots nearby around 8 p.m. Anthony was found minutes later, just 100 yards, or a stone's throw away from the location where Benjamin Mitchel so tragically succumbed to his injuries. Even though they arrived in no time, there is nothing police can do. Anthony, too, lost the fight for his life. Meanwhile, his father Casimir was getting more and more worried. His son was never late. When he turned the TV on, he saw the reports of the 3rd murder in their neighborhood. Casimir and his partner Maria decided to go to the crime scene, to see if, God forbid, it was Anthony. Once there, Casimir told police that his son was missing and gave a description. Police inform him that the victim is a black male. Anthony is a little darker than the rest of his family, but does not look African American. Casimir and Maria went back home, hoping they would find Anthony there, but he still had not returned. A few hours later, when police rang his doorbell, Casimir instantly knew. It was Anthony. His son was the 3rd victim. With the 3rd and seemingly random murder in just 2 weeks, fear rises to another level. The neighborhood is absolutely terrified. People change their routines. They avoid going out alone, keep their children inside, and lock each and every door and window, even during the day. Police officers patrol the neighborhood and keep watch over children waiting for their school buses every morning. Police are working around the clock. Detectives investigate the cases. Police cars drive up and down the streets non-stop. And guardian angels patrol the neighborhood as well to support the terrified people of Seminole Heights. But the killer hides under the veil of darkness. Even though officers from other districts have been assigned to the case as well, to have as much blue on the streets as possible, the killer only needs seconds to shoot, kill, and disappear into the protection of the dark night. Police still suspected that the murders were connected, even stronger than before, but had very little information. They did not know the killer's age, race, or gender, let alone his motive. It is not even clear if it is just one person terrorizing the neighborhood. Police also thought that whoever was out hunting the streets of Seminole Heights possibly lived in the neighborhood and knew the streets like the back of his hand, giving him the opportunity to disappear within seconds. They requested residents to light up their porches and gardens, even offering to provide and have officers install light bulbs if people do not have any. Anything and everything to lure the killer out of the darkness. The killer did not live in Seminole Heights. In fact, he had no connection to the neighborhood or his victims at all. The killer was a young man, from a good family, grew up in a nice neighborhood with nice people, university education, a former athlete. As a child, he was quiet and a bit shy, but well-mannered and well-spoken. You know, one of those people that are expected to land a good job, start a family, and just breeze through life. But Howell Emmanuel Donaldson wasn't exactly winning the last few months. Even though he has a nickname, Trey, to distinguish him from his father, Howell Jr., I don't really feel like using it. I will address him as Donaldson. So, Donaldson attended St. John's University in New York City and graduated in January 2017 with a major in sports management and a minor in business. Throughout high school, he had been on the school's basketball team. He was on the university's basketball team as well. He was a walk-on in the 2011-2012 season, but never played a game. So, no, we're not talking about the next Michael Jordan here. Donaldson returned to Tampa after graduation and found a customer support job at Ultimate Medical Academy. It did not last too long, though. He was fired in May for absenteeism. He started a new job around mid-September at a McDonald's in Ybor City. His manager, Delonda, described him as odd. She herself never had any problems with him, but he had frequently exploded in anger during work, only to laugh it off afterwards. He was often late as well, and if we're talking odd, he once even requested to stay in the restaurant overnight. He suggested to sleep in the lobby. Yep, he was clearly having issues. One of Donaldson's old high school basketball teammates, Matt Treadgill, later told police that sometime in July 2017, Donaldson had asked him if he could live with him for a while, but Matt declined. When they met up again in September, Matt expected Donaldson to ask him if he could borrow money. Instead, he asked him if he knew how and where to buy a gun. Matt even asked if Donaldson planned a robbery or something, but did not really take the whole gun thing seriously. He thought it was just a strange way to ask for a loan. In the end, Matt did give Donaldson $120. Donaldson had been contacting more old friends, an ex-girlfriend, and former basketball coaches. He had not seen most of these people in years. He asked all of them for small loans. Police spoke to most of those friends and acquaintances, and many of them said that at that time, Donaldson was living out of his car, stayed at motels, and couch surfed around. He had told them that he had been kicked out of his parents' home. They also mentioned to police that Donaldson looked unkempt, could use a haircut, and wasn't the sharp guy he used to be. It was indeed clear that Donaldson was having issues, but nobody expected him to go on a killing spree. Right, back to Seminole Heights. More about Donaldson later on. Tragically enough, there's a lot more to come. Police continued to work tirelessly to keep the terrified people of Seminole Heights safe, but it seemed they were fighting a ghost, a faceless, nameless monster that was always one step ahead of them. Even though the residents of Seminole Heights were terrified and practically held hostage by the killer, they grew more and more angry as well. They refused to succumb to the terror. On October 23rd, a vigil was held. Hundreds of Seminole Heights residents walked the streets, holding candles to illuminate the neighborhood. They cried, they prayed, and chanted that they own the streets and were not afraid. They let the killer know that Seminole Heights was united as one, from the east to the west. They wanted him to know that they would not let him get away, and they would continue to fight until he is caught. The killer answers with silence. After 3 murders in 2 weeks, suddenly it stops. Police keeps patrolling, but nothing suspicious happens on the 24th, not on the 25th, and nothing happens on the 26th either. Then, days turn into weeks. But the killer is still out there and can strike at any minute. Police and the people of Seminole Heights know it and remain alert. Tampa Mayor Bob Buckhorn gives police officers a pep talk and issues a clear order to bring him the killer's head and to get it done. Halloween is approaching. Seminole Heights parents wrestle with the question of whether to keep their kids home or to maybe trick-or-treat somewhere else. And then, on Halloween Eve, Mayor Bob Buckhorn and the police chief announce that they will go out trick-or-treating with the children. They will not allow the killer to ruin this magical night for the children. The mayor said they would not allow evil to win. Police come out in full force to protect the kids. The neighborhood is saturated with officers, on horseback, in cars, and walking hand in hand with little superheroes and princesses. For adults and children alike, Halloween was the first night in a long time that they went out after dark. People could relax a little bit and have some much-needed fun. Innocence will win, Mayor Bob Buckhorn said. And for one night, it did. But tragically enough, the killer would soon strike again. November 14th, 2017. Around 1 a.m., 60-year-old Ronald, or Ronnie Felton, parked his bicycle at the New Seasons Apostolic Church Food Bank. Ronnie was a construction worker, but on his days off, he volunteered at the church food bank for families in need. Every Tuesday and Friday morning, he got on his bike and cycled to the church to arrive around 3 a.m., long before the food bank opened at 7:30. But he knew the food bank's clients would line up from around 1 a.m. and be out there alone in the dark, waiting for the pantry to open. Ever since the killings, Ronnie made sure to arrive early. He had been a volunteer at New Seasons for more than a decade. Ronnie wanted to be there for his clients, his friends, to support and comfort them during those terrifying nights. Pastor Samuel Washington told reporters that even before the killings, Ronnie would always be there for the clients. He would wait for them, instead of them waiting on him, to open the pantry. Ronnie has a brief phone conversation with his twin brother, Reggie. According to some articles, Reggie would join the food bank staff that morning too, as he did every so often. In any case, the brothers speak around 4:15 a.m. At some point, Ronnie said he was on his way to the laundromat across the street to use the bathroom and would call back later. One of the food bank's clients saw Ronnie walking across the street just a few minutes later. He was on his way back to the church and on his phone. According to his other brother James, Ronnie was talking with Reggie again. While Ronnie crosses the street, a man was seen running up to Ronnie from behind. The man fired one shot, and Ronnie fell. He lay face down on the tarmac, in the middle of the street. Seconds later, the shooter stood over Ronnie and shot him 4 more times before he ran off. Police were at the scene within 1 minute.
And I got a mail down in the middle of the street.
But Ronnie, a father, brother, partner, and friend, was sadly pronounced dead at the scene. He was cowardly shot in the head and back. He had no chance. Can you imagine the horror on the other end of the phone call? Reggie. I can't even begin to think what that must be like to witness your brother's death through a phone. The confusion, the panic, and not being able to do anything. Horrific. The neighborhood went into lockdown. Police were on a manhunt. They were everywhere, on foot, in cars, and in helicopters, searching every inch of the neighborhood. FBI SWAT officers wearing camouflage going door to door and checking backyards. But after 7 hours, the killer had not been found. He got away. Again. But this time they had a witness. In fact, multiple people saw the killer run off. The witnesses described the shooter as a black male, wearing all black, 6 foot to 6'2", with a thin build and light complexion, armed with a large black pistol. Police collected security footage from businesses and residents around Nebraska Avenue. The next day, Chief of Police Brian Dugan shared new footage of the suspect. It seemed to be the same person as seen in the footage shared after Benjamin Mitchel's murder in October. He asked the public for help. Somebody has to know who this person is, Chief Dugan said. He added, "We don't need speculation. We don't need profiles. We need names." In a tweet, Police asked the public to watch closely and look at details, like the way the man walks and how he flips his phone. Especially his walk is very distinctive, something that, in combination with everything else, could trigger the people close to this man. On November 28th, police officer Randy Whitney was having lunch at the Ybor City McDonald's. Mid-lunch, restaurant manager Delonda Walker approached Officer Whitney and told her that one of the employees had given her a plastic McDonald's salad bag. The employee, Howell Emmanuel Donaldson III, had strongly requested that she would not look inside the bag but just keep it safe for him. Delonda did not look, but based on the weight and how it felt from touching the outside of the bag, she believed the bag contained a gun. Officer Whitney followed Delonda to the office, put on some gloves, and opened the bag. Inside the bag, the officer indeed found a .40 caliber semi-automatic Glock, the same gun and ammo as the suspected murder weapon. The officer acts quickly, and when Donaldson returned to the restaurant, she and her co-workers were waiting for him. Donaldson was detained and interrogated for 4 hours. He confirmed that he was the owner of the gun but denied committing the killings. At the end of the interview, he was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and arrested. He was booked into Hillsborough County Jail the next day. Donaldson had given police permission to test his gun, search his car, and trace his cell phone data. The gun matched the murder weapon. Police were also able to trace the phone's location and prove that it was present on all 4 crime scenes and at the time of each murder. According to Donaldson, he had handed over the gun to his co-worker because he was going back to university, and
I didn't want the firearm to be in my home with my little brother. Accidents happen.
Okay, sure.
Delonda testified to police that when Donaldson gave her the bag, he told her he was leaving the state because he had, quote, done a bad thing that he could not turn back from, end quote. When the news broke that police had made an arrest in the case, Pastor Horan of the Seminole Heights United Methodist Church alerted the community by ringing the church bells. After 51 days of terror, the people of Seminole Heights were free again. They could finally breathe a sigh of relief. After almost 2 months of intense fear, the neighborhood could begin the healing process. So, what else do we know about Donaldson? And why on earth did he go on this random killing spree? You really want to stick around for this part, because his parents will be playing a significant and not a very pretty role in the story. So much so that Benjamin Mitchel's sister directly spoke to Donaldson's mother in her victim statement at the end of the trial. You'll see that amazing woman and her powerful statement later on. But, first things first. The then 24-year-old Donaldson is a Tampa native. He was born on January 26, 1993, to his parents Howell Jr. and Rosita Donaldson. He is the middle child, with an older sister and a younger brother. The Donaldson family was known to be a good and very religious family. A neighbor who used to walk Donaldson to school every day as a child was in total shock when she heard he had been arrested for the Seminole Heights murders. She could not comprehend that the boy she knew was capable of murder, let alone 4 murders. Like his manager Delonda, most of his McDonald's co-workers said he was a bit odd. Gail Rogers, one of his co-workers at the restaurant, told news outlet the Tampa Bay Times that they had teased him at work because they thought he looked like the Seminole Heights killer in the videos. Quote, "We would tease him and say he was the killer because he looked like the pictures. I called him the killer to his face. He did not like that." End quote. Donaldson told his old teammate Matt, his ex-girlfriend, a former basketball coach, and a few other friends that he was in a bad spot and that he had been kicked out of his parents' home. Through paycheck advances and the small loans from his friends, he managed to come up with enough money to purchase his gun. He collected the weapon at the store on October 7th. 2 days later, his gun was used to kill Benjamin Mitchel. When police investigated his phone data, they also looked at Donaldson's internet activity, of course. And boy, did they find activity. The Tampa Bay Times reported that, according to the arrest warrant, Donaldson made it a habit to visit an adult-themed website close to the time of committing the murders. God, how sick. Donaldson's parents, Rosita and Howell Jr. Donaldson, were shocked when they learned that their son was arrested and charged with the murders. They had trouble believing he could be the Seminole Heights serial killer. They had been praying for each of the 4 victims, and then suddenly had to wrap their heads around the fact that their own son had been charged with the murders. Mother Rosita told police that Donaldson lived in the family home and was in every night from 5 p.m. Right. Very different from what his friends later testified to police. Sounds like someone was either confused or not telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. On December 1st, Rosita and Howell Jr. Donaldson talked to TV channel WFTS.
I just want to say that our heart goes out to the family. We're sincere heartbroken for the families and the community of Seminole Heights. And we just want to say that we love our son, we support our son, and we pray strength for the family members, and we just ask that they do the same for us and pray strength for us because we all are devastated.
How difficult has it been for you guys?
Very, very, very difficult. It's been difficult for everyone, as my wife said. Not only for us, but for victims in this case. And our hearts are heavy, as their hearts are heavy.
Yes.
Look, I totally understand how shocked and devastated they were. But to ask the families of the victims to pray for them, and to make it mostly about their son and themselves, just painful, utterly painful. Don't ask prayers from the people who lost their loved ones because your son went out with a gun and randomly killed 4 innocent people. Unbelievable. And it did not stop there with them. Rosita and Howell Jr. refused to cooperate with the police investigation after Donaldson's arrest. They knew he would probably be looking at the ultimate sentence, the one you don't come back from, and they were not willing to help convict their son. Their refusal to testify escalated in February 2018. Judge Mark Wolf found them in indirect civil contempt of court and ordered a 6-month home confinement, monitored 24/7 by GPS and allowed only to leave their home for medical and religious reasons and employment purposes. In an interview at the time, they continue to speak lovingly about their son. It is almost as if their boy is the victim here.
Trey is a good son.
With my boy?
Yes.
Their home confinement was lifted on July 2nd after the couple submitted a sworn affidavit with the answers to the 2 questions asked by investigators. 1. Did Howell Jr. and Rosita Donaldson know their son's whereabouts at the time of the murders? And 2. Did Donaldson have a history of mental illness? Rosita and Howell Jr. answered no to both questions. This means they did not provide their son with an alibi for the times of the murders. Remember, at the time of the arrest, Rosita claimed that her son lived at home and was always in by 5 p.m. By answering no to the second question, they shed some light on Donaldson's mental health situation. The state attorney indicated that the prosecution intended to pursue capital punishment. A history of mental health issues or a diagnosis could keep him off death row if convicted. With this statement, we know that, at least for as long as he had been in their care, Donaldson was not diagnosed with any mental health issue or disorder. And, if Donaldson had, or is, having mental issues, his parents have not been aware. Donaldson's attorneys requested a total of 3 psychological assessments to determine if he was fit to stand trial. Even though the reports have not been made public, all 3 psychologists concluded that this was indeed the case. In April 2019, Rosita and Howell Jr. were back in the news when a video of one of their previous visits to Donaldson was released. They are heard saying that they will win the case with the help of God.
And we're going to win this. We're going to win this. God's going to see us through this and we'll win this.
As if he was up for an important basketball game. I know that a parent's love for a child is almost endless. Most parents would die for their children. I do understand that they must have been broken, devastated. But when your son is a suspect in a quadruple murder case and the evidence is strong, they must have known in their heart of hearts that the chance of their son being innocent was extremely small. I am not saying they should have shouted it from the rooftops, but claiming his innocence, refusing to testify, and asking the families of the victims for prayers, I find it extremely disrespectful, to be honest. What would you do? Would you cooperate with the police? Would you keep claiming your son's innocence even when evidence of his guilt is strong? I would really like to hear what you think and feel about this. Let me know in the comments. I'm looking forward to your thoughts. It would take almost 5 years to set a trial date. 5 long years of court hearings, a global pandemic, and an appeal. In one of the status hearings, on January 29, 2019, Donaldson claimed life in jail was making him ill and requested a medical review by external doctors. Even though he claims he's hardly able to even just stand, He seems to be standing just fine. And then he even has the guts to say this.
I feel like, if I'm in there much longer, that my heart and my body won't be able to last under what I've been enduring.
The first thing to come out of his mouth publicly is not a heartfelt message to the families of the victims. Nope. It is all about himself. It seems to be a family trait. The judge granted him a medical review, but within the walls of the jail. Finally, on December 6, 2022, a trial date was set. The case was scheduled to start in August 2023 and was expected to run for 9 weeks, making it one of the longest court cases in Tampa Bay area history. But after maintaining his innocence for almost 6 years, on May 1, 2023, Howell Emmanuel Donaldson III pleaded guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder.
Tell me your name and date of birth, please.
Howell Emmanuel Donaldson III, 01/26/93.
To each of those charges that I've just described, how do you plead today?
Guilty.
By pleading guilty, he avoided the death penalty and received 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. To this day, he has not explained his motive. Psychologists have tried to shed light on the case, but it remains anyone's guess. Some have suggested Donaldson could be a sociopath and that it was about the control he had over thousands of people. Others thought that perhaps a sense of failure in his athletic and professional career could have led him down this path. But as long as Donaldson doesn't speak, we will not know his motive for killing 4 innocent, randomly chosen people. State Attorney Susie Lopez said that Donaldson's offer to plead guilty but avoid the death penalty was presented to the families of the victims. She met with each family and learned that they were exhausted and mentally drained after all these years. She explained that without the overwhelming support of the families, the state would not have accepted Donaldson's offer. However, not all families agreed. Anthony Naiboa's father could not accept the plea offer. Now, former Tampa Police Chief Brian Dugan became friends with Casimir Naiboa and spoke for him in court and during the press conference afterwards. Dugan said, "He doesn't agree with this. His sense of justice is an eye for an eye, and quite frankly, I get it." And, he added, "Who am I to argue with a grieving father?" After Donaldson pleaded guilty, the victims' family members addressed the killer of their loved ones. Many family members spoke. Ronnie Felton's brother James and sisters Darlene and Shirley addressed Donaldson on behalf of their family. Monica's father and cousin spoke. Her mother, who could not attend the hearing, had a friend speak on her behalf. Benjamin's sister Nakisha, mother and stepfather, addressed the killer too. Monica's father, Kenny Hoffa, spoke of forgiveness, not to help Donaldson, but for himself. Benjamin's sister Nakisha said she was not even close to forgiveness. Nakisha did not only address Donaldson, but also his mother. Let's watch part of the statements. It is much more powerful to hear the families express their hate, grief, and pain in their own words.
Would you like some water?
I think I'll be all right. So I think the thing that first I want you to realize is what you stole from all of these families. You took my opportunity to love my daughter away, to physically touch her, to see her, to be with her. You took that away from us. I will always love my daughter. And now I will always miss my daughter. If you only knew the person that she was, if you only knew the light that you extinguished, I'm going to forgive you. And I've learned in the last 5 years that forgiveness is not about saying it was okay. Forgiveness is about me saying I'm going to let that go, but you are going to have to pay for what you did. Amen. Forgiveness is all about letting God shepherd me through something that I can't shepherd myself through. There's been many, many times when all I did was dwell on who killed my daughter. And then when I found out it was you, I dwelled on how can I kill you? It was killing me.
I want you dead. And I mean that from my uterus to the darkest place in my soul. Hate is such a strong word, but I hate you. I hope when you go to jail at night, when you lay in your cell, that you see Benjamin's face, Monica's face, Anthony and Ronald's face. I pray you have not one sleepless night in the cell that you were confined to. And for your mother, I hope she gets that phone call that my mother got. That either you have decided to end your own life or that someone else in prison has chosen to end your life. And also, as a mother, the night the video was released of your son walking the streets, anybody in here that is a mother or a parent, period, both of my daughters and my grandchild is here right now today. There is nobody, there is nothing, there is no amount, no crowd that cannot tell me that I cannot pick my child out. Your son has a very unique walk. I don't know if you were in denial or maybe you didn't see the video. I have no idea what you were thinking. But as a mother, when that video came out, you knew that was your son. Now, whether you had a talk with him or not, you knew it was him. And also, as a mother, I've never seen you before today. But as I walked in here today, the moment I looked at you, I knew you was his mother. There isn't anybody that could have stopped me from reaching out to another parent if my child chose to end someone's life. Just to simply say, I'm sorry. When we walked through here, we walked right in front of you. You could have reached out to my mother. Even if she would have rejected you, you could have did it. And you didn't. I've heard Monica's father and her cousin speak about forgiveness. Baby, I ain't there. And I don't know if I ever will be. And that's just something I'm going to have to take up with the Lord when I meet him. But for right now, I don't forgive you. Every time I want to visit my brother or my mother wants to speak to her son, we have to make adjustments in Las Vegas to come to Tampa to talk to a headstone that ain't gonna talk back.
I have so much respect for these people. To stand up and confront the monster and have the strength to do it in such a way that they won't be arrested themselves is incredibly admirable, inspiring, and heartbreaking at the same time. So, thankfully Donaldson is incarcerated and will be for the rest of his life. I fully agree with Benjamin's sister and wish him not one sleepless night, and vivid dreams of Benjamin, Monica, Anthony, and Ronald. Every night until the day he dies. I wish him a long life so he gets to fully experience prison life and dream thousands of dreams of the lives that he took. To the families, I am so sorry for your loss. So sorry for the senseless terror that had to fall upon you. I admire your incredible strength and dignity, and wish each of you strength, love, and hopefully, someday, somehow, peace in your hearts again. And with this, we leave Seminole Heights, the neighborhood that did not succumb to the monster that roamed their streets and took 4 of their neighbors and friends. The neighborhood that united and stayed strong during a 51-day nightmare. Thank you so much for watching this tragic story. As always, it means the world to me that you choose to spend some of your precious time to learn about Benjamin, Monica, Anthony, and Ronnie. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and be safe. If you liked this video, please give it a like. Share it with someone who will appreciate it. It would be amazing if you would subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you won't miss any of my videos. Thanks. All right, over and out. Bye.
When life gets heavy, I get light as a feather, changing my mind like the Indian weather. Say a prayer for me tonight.